forecast.
When I say it was a mistake, absolutely, the idea that I was not present was very painful.
We know that there was warnings about the weather before you went, and you still went. What was the thought process behind going to Ghana?
When the White House called and asked me if I would represent the president, I said yes.
All right, guys, you know exactly what time it is because we got to give you our weekly update on the absolute incompetence, stupidity, and foolishness of the California Democrat politicians. Except today, believe it or not, Gavin Newsom is going to catch a little bit of a break. I know we've done a million videos and we're going to do a million more, but for now, we have to talk about LA Mayor Karen Bass, because we also cannot forget about her. Sure, Gavin Newsom's mismanagement of the state is the core reason to blame why the Palisades fires and all the fires that took place in Southern California last month got so bad. But let's not forget about Karen Bass. Karen Bass is the one who cut the budget to the LA Fire Department. The LA Fire Department, of course, warned her that this was going to cause a catastrophe. It did. And then Karen Bass refused to take accountability for that, much like all of these California Democrats are refusing to take accountability for anything that has happened. Let's also not forget, and this is very important to today's video, the fact that Karen Bass, while these fires were starting, was busy in Africa, right? Africa. I'm gonna take a lot to take me away from you. That's what she was busy doing. While the Palisades fire began, Karen Bass was busy attending the inauguration of the president of Ghana, right? Basically a state vacation. It was a very bad look. Well, just today, she was finally confronted on this by the local media, actually by Fox11 in LA. So shout out local news station I used to watch growing up. I'm actually from Los Angeles County. And we have that. Finally, a reporter is asking her, was it a mistake to go to Ghana, to go to Africa in the middle of your city burning down? And we'll show you what she had to say. But first, take a guess. Do you think she took any accountability? Yeah, we'll tell you all about it in today's video. So folks, if you enjoy the content, make sure you subscribe. Okay, subscribing is the best way to support our work and ensure that we can keep bringing you this coverage. And let's actually start here. I want to point out, at least props to Karen Bass for saying literally anything, because the first time, let's remember that she was asked about going to Ghana, she had literally nothing to say.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
Can you back up, boss? Appreciate it.
Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster? No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
Gonna take a lot to take me away from you. So, you know, that was Karen Bass before. Now, I think it seems like she's figured out that it probably was not a great response to say nothing, okay? You know, that people do want answers to this. Why were you in Africa during all of this? And essentially what's happening now is Karen Bass is, instead of hiding like she's been for a very long time now, trying to do interviews with local media to essentially salvage her own reputation, right? She has to do some damage control. She is up for re-election in 2026. This is a massive problem. So let's tune in and take a listen to what Karen Bass's new excuse is for why she was in Africa during the fires, because let's remember the first excuse was nothing. All right, what does she have to say? Let's hear her out. I don't know, maybe she has an answer. Okay.
I felt absolutely terrible not being here for my city.
LA Mayor Karen Bass gives us her first sit-down TV interview since the Palisades fire began and opens up about traveling on a diplomatic mission to Ghana with dangerous winds in LA's forecast.
When I say it
Gonna take a lot to take me away from... Okay, let's hear what she has to say. Let's hear what...
was a mistake, absolutely, the idea that I was not present was very painful.
We know that there was warnings about the weather before you went, and you still went. What was the thought process behind going to Ghana?
When the White House called and asked me if I would represent the president, I said yes. It was going to be a very, very short trip. over a weekend and 2 business days.
The mayor says LA.
So she admits it was a mistake, okay? But I just wanted you to keep this in mind, because the issue is not that you made mistakes. Everyone knows at this point you made mistakes. So she's admitting that because nothing she can say. She can't sit around and defend herself. But notice how already she's going to deflect the blame. She's about to deflect the blame in a much bigger way, but already it's like, well, Joe Biden asked me to do it. I couldn't say no to Joe Biden. No, you could have said no. I don't know. He was literally a lame duck president. What was he going to do? What is he going to do? Sabotage your re-election campaign at 80,000 years old? You could have said no. But anyways, here's where it gets really bad.
Business days.
The mayor says LA Fire Chief Kristin Crowley did not call her to warn her in advance of the trip and didn't do the, quote, normal preparations for this kind of wind event.
That type of preparation didn't happen. If that had, I will tell you, Alex, I wouldn't have even gone to San Diego, let alone leave the country.
But what do you mean there were warnings you weren't aware of? Because I know we were talking about it on the news. A lot of people were talking about the problems, warning that this was going to be a huge...
So it didn't reach that level to me to say something terrible could happen and maybe you shouldn't have gone on the trip.
Why didn't it
But to
happen?
me, I don't know. I mean, I think that that's one of the things we need to look at.
There are now 2...
So, right, shifting the blame. See what's going on here? This has been going on for a long time, by the way, because the fire chief is blaming Karen Bass. Karen Bass is blaming the fire chief. The truth is, when it comes to the Democrat leadership out of there, it's probably all collectively their faults, right? Everyone has a piece to blame, but that nobody wants to take accountability. So they're just pointing fingers at each other. And still here, you have Karen Bass, after a month of being in disgrace, still refusing to take accountability. So let's break down what her excuses were. Well, first of all, what she's essentially saying is she had no way of knowing. She was not given fair warning about severe fire weather striking Los Angeles before she left for the trip, because her excuse has basically been, look, I had no way of knowing. I was busy in Africa. I came back as soon as I could. How was I supposed to be able to predict this? Except, as that local journalist points out here, there was plenty of fair prior warning about fire weather in Los Angeles. It was all over the local news. And Karen Bass somehow is claiming she was so naive about this because the LA fire chief did not warn her ahead of time. Well, in a second, we'll get into talking about that fire chief herself. But I first of all just want to point this out. There was plenty of warning. There's plenty of warning actually in the local media, as you can see right here. Okay. On January 2nd, 2025, the National Interagency Fire Center warned of above normal significant fire potential in Southern California, as noted in multiple Wikipedia entries about the January 2025 wildfires. By the way, I had Grok compile this just so that we can organize all of the proof into one place. Feel free to verify all this for yourself, because it's literally true. Even that journalist was pointing it out. On the same day, the National Weather Service issued a fire weather watch highlighting the potential for intense fires due to expected dry and windy conditions. This watch was issued 5 days before the Palisades fire ignited. So keep that in mind. It's like, be one thing, the next day, suddenly the weather reports are telling you we might have fire weather. That's a super bad thing. No, the Palisades fire started on January 7th. By January 2nd, you already had the National Weather Service and the NIFC putting out warnings about this. Karen Bass claims there's no way to know. Karen Bass claims that, we didn't know. The news media knew about it. You had local news in LA saying we're going to get some really bad fires, most likely. Karen Bass is claiming, as the mayor of her city, she had no clue. What, does she live in La La Land? Well, we'll get into that in a second. But here's some even more information. Further, on January 3rd, 2025, okay, so this is 4 days before the fire, the SPC forecasted a, quote, critical risk of fire weather for January 8th, 2025, based on expected Santa Ana wind intensification. Keep in mind, these are the exact days that Karen Bass still decided to go to Ghana anyway. That's right. Now, this forecast, made 4 days before the fire began, was part of a broader outlook that anticipated worsening conditions. By January 7th, the day that the fire started, the SPC had escalated its forecast to an extremely critical risk for January 8th, reflecting the dire situation already unfolding, but Karen Bass claims she had no idea. Nobody knew about this. These reports demonstrate that meteorologists were tracking a dangerous fire weather pattern several days in advance, with specific warnings emerging as early as January 2nd. But take a look at this, okay? Because keep in mind, she's the mayor of Los Angeles. She has access to sometimes information that the public doesn't know. The Washington Post also reported on January 7th that the National Weather Service had been warning of a, quote, life-threatening and destructive windstorm for days. So keep in mind, Karen Bass says, well, the fire chief didn't really tell me that it was going to be that bad. I had no reason to believe I shouldn't go on the trip. Life-threatening and destructive is what the National Weather Service was saying. Okay, suggesting that alerts began even earlier than January 2nd, possibly in late December 2024. While the exact date of the initial warning isn't specified as December 31st or January 1st in the provided data, the phrase 4 days prior to January 7th implies a timeline that could stretch back to December 31st, approximately around a week before the fire. We knew about this for a week. And she claims, I don't know what's happening. She's the mayor of this city. So you really think, Karen Bass, that is an acceptable response to deflect accountability? Okay, so the excuse she's making is apparently she has no knowledge of like local news in her own city and what literally everyone is saying. She's that out of touch. Well, it makes sense because she's busy where? What's going on in her head? Africa. Gonna take a lot to take me away, right? Okay. But nonetheless, so the person she's blaming right now is her LA fire chief. The issue number one is that's your fire chief. That's the person you want to be in that position. And on top of that, okay, so here's where the blame game is going to be pointed at both sides, and ultimately it's kind of both their faults. Because let's also not forget, this fire chief that she, is such a big fan of before all of this, was widely celebrated as a DEI hire, right? Widely celebrated as the first ever identifying as lesbian woman fire chief in the history of LA. So let's also remind ourselves of that. So you have DEI hire fire chief. Karen Bass is in support of this fire chief. Now she's refusing to take accountability and throwing the DEI hire under the bus. But here's who you're working with. This is the LA fire chief.
Super inspired.
She took time out of her already busy schedule to tell us about her vision for the department's future, one that includes a 3-year strategic plan to increase diversity.
People ask me, well, what number are you looking for? I said, I'm not looking for a number. It's never enough.
Out of 3,300 city firefighters, only 115 are women right now. She's already looking at ways to change that. She's quick to point out that doing so has a greater purpose, attracting the best and brightest for the job.
They feel included, they feel valued, and they feel part of a cohesive team.
The chief also checks another box when it comes to inclusivity and diversity at this department. She's a proud member of the LGBTQ community.
That just kind of opens the door of people that thought, wow, I didn't even know that was an opportunity for me.
Right, so Karen Bass is apparently now finding out that her beloved DEI hire was not working out so well, and she is proceeding to throw this fire chief under the bus. Now, here's where it gets complicated, and who knows what the truth is. And again, I'm sure it's in the middle in the sense that they're both to blame. They both screwed up, right? But this LA fire chief, and here's the reason why I would say do not take what Karen Bass is saying at face value. I don't even necessarily believe her that it's the fire chief who didn't give her fair warning, although it's possible, because this is the same fire chief who called her out, called Karen Bass out, because Karen Bass is the one who cut the funding to the LA Fire Department. The LA fire chief, the lesbian, was warning her about this. And, suddenly Karen Bass was upset that she got called out and is now blaming the fire chief for everything. It's just complicated back and forth. But let's also remind ourselves about that.
Let's get to the big question, the budget. There's so much talk about it. It was cut $17 million. It was cut this. It wasn't cut at all, according to one newspaper. Was your budget for the fiscal year 2024-2025 cut?
I can tell you, I'm going to even go back further than that. Again, since day one, we've identified huge gaps in regard to our service delivery and our ability from our firefighters, boots on the ground, to do their jobs. Since day one, this is my third budget as we're going into 25-26. What I can tell you is we are still understaffed, we're still under-resourced, and we're still underfunded. So with that, whether it's $7 million, $10 million.
But was the budget cut, Chief?
Yes, it was cut. And it did impact our ability to provide service.
Yeah, so as much as Karen Bass wants to deflect the blame, shift the responsibility, again, this is your fire chief, okay? You act like she works for another city or something. No, she's your person. You actually have the authority to fire her. You almost did and then decided not to because she's the DEI hire or something. So I don't know what's going on there, okay? You guys can figure that out. But I'm still looking at this and saying, no, you are accountable. And by the way, okay, even on this front of like not getting fair warning, despite the fact that everyone else apparently knew, like everyone on Earth knew that this fire was coming besides apparently Karen Bass. That's what we're supposed to believe, right? Well, check this out as well, okay? From Media Lies, very good post right here. Karen Bass is trying to play dumb about the LA fires. She claims she did not know the severity of the fires before she went on the trip to Ghana, but this is false. Her account was tweeting about it while she was traveling. As you can see right here, January 6, 2025, a day before the Palisades fire began, there is an expected destructive and potentially life-threatening windstorm starting Tuesday morning through Wednesday afternoon. Red flag, no parking restrictions, blah, 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 blah. Stay safe, LA. So she knew. Even the mayor's office is talking about it. But of course, right? She just had no way to know. You know, she really had to go to Africa. Okay. Let's, guys, finish this video by tuning into the rest of her nonsense excuses and seeing if she has anything else to say to justify any of this.
Investigations underway, one by LA's Fire Commission, another by the Fire Safety Research Institute.
Everything that happened, including that, needs to be examined.
Have you nothing to say today?
So she's vowing to investigate basically herself, investigate her own, management of the city. You really think they're going to find anything? Are you serious? So-called independent commission? Yeah, that's honestly kind of laughable. Okay, and now here is her trying to explain why she went completely mute when the reporter tried to ask her very basic questions about why she was in Ghana from that infamous video. Okay, so now here's Karen Bass trying to explain that.
Have you nothing to say today?
Bass returned from Ghana. She was ambushed by a SkyNews reporter from Ireland. She didn't respond to him for several minutes. A clip that's been seen millions of times.
Your position?
Yes, it was an ambush, and I wasn't sure who he was. And that is unfortunate because I see the way that looks as though I was avoiding. But when you're getting off a plane and you've been on a plane 17 hours and somebody hits you with a camera, I wish in hindsight my response had been better.
This week,
I wish, see what she does? I wish my response would have been better. But after that mountains of excuses, this woman does not take accountability for anything. Okay? Oh, I was on a plane for 17 hours. Yeah, you're a politician and your city's in crisis. Say something. Speak. Okay? It was an ambush. How is it an ambush? You didn't expect this to happen? Karen Bass, let's keep in mind, it's not some outsider. She's been in politics for like decades now. Okay? When you're the mayor of a city and you're coming back to your city and it's in crisis, you don't expect reporters to be waiting for you, asking you questions. That's how it works. These things happen. It's part of the job. It's part of the job, Karen Bass. Unbelievable. Okay, more excuses. You ready for it? All right, let's hear more excuses.
The LA Times quoted former fire officials saying that the fire department could have pre-deployed at least 10 additional engines to the Palisades.
Did the city fail the residents of the Palisades?
Well, again, all of that has to be examined with experts.
What is account?
You don't know the answer. You don't know the answer to that. Really, Karen Bass? You don't know the answer if the city failed. All of their homes are burned down. Okay, that place looks like a nuclear bomb fell through it. We don't know. That has to be investigated. The answer is yes, Karen Bass. The correct answer is yes. But again, she won't take accountability for anything. And anything she does, she's going to blame the fire chief for. Okay? It's all the fault of the lesbian fire chief, according to Karen Bass.
Accountability look like to you? And is it time that somebody be fired for this?
Well, again, I mean, I think it's premature to say now.
Really?
But I do think that we have to examine everything, and that is going to take place very soon.
How do you assess the job performance of the chief of the fire department?
Well, I think that that's something that has to be assessed. I need to understand why things were handled differently this time than they've been handled before.
They haven't been handled before either. What are you talking? This is a big problem in California that keeps happening. But okay, no accountability. Even the fire chief that she keeps criticizing, she won't even hold that person accountable by firing her. You see, like this is like the worst politician ever. They're incompetent even at being incompetent. Even when it comes to blaming other people, she won't even do it correctly.
And why do you think that is?
I'm not sure.
We met up with Mayor Bass at the Impacted Worker and Family Recovery Center, now open in Culver City. It's one of 4 locations for those impacted by the fires.
And it doesn't matter where you live, where you're from, you can come here and get an array of resources, from direct cash assistance to unemployment, job assistance, training.
Okay, really? People are getting all the assistance that they need because you have like one community center set up apparently. Well, meanwhile, in reality, Karen Bass, as Trump pointed out and warned her about, we'll play that actually first here, is doing a really bad job actually rebuilding, right? It's incredibly slow. So let's flash back here to once again see Donald Trump vindicated on this issue.
But the people are willing to clean out their own debris. It doesn't cost a lot.
Yes, and they can.
You should let them do it, because by the time you hire
that.
contractors, it's going to be 2 years.
If a family...
The people are willing to get a dumpster and do it themselves and clean it out.
And they can.
There's not that much left. It's all incinerated.
That's right.
And, you know, it's just going to take a long time if you do. You can do some of it, but a lot of these people, I know that guy right there that's talking. I know my people. You'll be on that thing tonight, throwing the stuff away, and your site it'll look perfect within 24 hours. And that's what he wants to do. He doesn't want to wait around for 7 months till the city hires some demolition contract that's going to charge him $25,000 to do his lot. Yeah. I think you have emergency powers just like I do. And I'm exercising my emergency powers. You have to exercise them also.
I did exercise them.
Because I looked, I mean, you have a very powerful emergency power, and you can do everything within 24 hours.
Yes. And if individuals want to clear out their property, they can. Well, yes, but you know that you will be able to go back soon.
Mr. President.
We think within a week.
That's a long time, a week. I'll be honest. To me, everyone's standing in front of their house. They want to go to work, and they're not allowed to do it.
And the most important thing is
a
for
long
people
time.
to be...
Yeah, well, update. It's been a month since that video took place where she said within a week you'll be allowed back. Yeah, update. Nobody's being allowed back, and no rebuilding or even cleanup is happening. Are you surprised? Is anyone surprised?
It's been over a month. There's zero cleanup. There's nothing.
Zero?
You saw it. I mean, nothing but rubble. Zero attempts at cleaning.
They're afraid of.
Yeah, so clearly, as you can see, a month after President Trump said that and Karen Bass promised to him, hey, it's going to take within a week. It's been a month later. There's no rebuilding going on. Even the contractors have not come in. And there's widespread reports of the residents trying to get the permit. For some reason, you need a permit to go back into your own house. They're not being granted it because of just bureaucratic red tape, incompetence. I'm not exactly sure, but that's a broken promise fundamentally. And what's going on there? I don't know, Karen Bass, are you going to investigate that too? Do we need more investigations to find out the facts? Or are you going to fix the situation? Are you going to take accountability for anything? Or are you just going to say, no, we need a 2-year-long independent report to actually decide what really happened here? Really? It's so freaking obvious. It's obvious what's going on. Okay? But I don't know. There you have Karen Bass for you guys. Just incompetent Democrat leadership nationwide. Last video we did was on Kathy Hochul. Now we got Karen Bass. I'm sure Gavin Newsom, whenever he crawls out of the hole he's been hiding in, he's going to be exposed too. He's been hiding from the media. Have you noticed that? Because he knows he's in trouble, okay? He's going to come out eventually, and we're going to talk about him. But nonetheless, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.